chance they came on a devil's game, and gosh, they paid the price.
Here's a real high-class stuff. Now go!
When Cuphead was first shown to people at E3 2014, people perked up. It wasn't shown for long, a few seconds really, but people took notice of the art style being used, a style that, truthfully, hasn't been seen in games or even regular media like TV or movies in a long time, if ever in the case of games. Cuphead had this smooth 1930s to 1940s cartoon look to it that drew people in, myself included. Well, now Cuphead is out, and does it have anything going for it besides the visuals? I'm happy to say yes. Cuphead is mostly a boss rush game with a bit of platforming sprinkled in. For those who don't know, boss rush games consist of the player versus a big boss and repeating that formula over the course of as many bosses as are in the game. They're popular among a subset of gamers, but the majority of them go by unnoticed by most gamers. Cuphead's art style is what got it noticed, and the boss rush genre may see a slight resurgence if Cuphead does well in sales. Boss rush games generally rely on trial and error to get down, and Cuphead is no exception. While there are a hefty amount of bosses in the game, over 20, each fight is literally able to be beaten in as little as a minute. However, getting to that point is where the trial and error comes in. Learning the boss's attack patterns, where you can safely move in the area, and what weapons do the most damage to the boss is where the trial and error comes in. Because of this, Cuphead can easily last people 10 or more hours before they finally defeat the final boss. Cuphead doesn't just recycle bosses, which is a nice touch. Each boss feels unique in its attacks and patterns. Each boss level has its own feel to it, including where players can stand to attack the bosses. A few boss fights even act like bullet hell games, where the players are in an aircraft and have to dodge anything that comes their way. This variety helps keep the boss rush formula fresh with each encounter. Without this fresh feeling with each boss fight, the game would feel too repetitive too quickly. The platforming sections are fewer and serve to break up the boss battles and to earn coins to buy items at the shop. These items consist of new weapons, super attacks, and other items that can be equipped. The art in Cuphead is simply amazing. From the watercolored overworld map to certain areas having watercolored backgrounds to the rubber limbs style animation of Cuphead, Mugmen, and the enemies, there's simply no amount of praise I can heap upon Cuphead's visuals to truly give it justice. It's even more amazing when you find out that all of the animation in Cuphead was hand-drawn and inked on paper. Cuphead also runs at a silky smooth 60 frames per second. The sound is equally good. A live jazz soundtrack was recorded, which is amazing. Voices all have that old cartoon sound to them when there are voices heard, and sound effects really fit in the style of the time period that Studio MDHR is trying to emulate. The gameplay and controls are tight and responsive. However, I would suggest remapping the controls. The default controls will absolutely kill your thumbs, and were purposely designed to have that old Super Nintendo feel to them. But change shoot to the right trigger, super to the left trigger, and then dash to either X or B. And also use the D-pad. In this style of game, it is far more responsive and accurate than an analog stick. Doing this will help to find yourself able to deal with the deaths and restarts with far less actual physical pain. And there will be lots of deaths and restarts. Cuphead is a difficult game, but it never really feels unfair in its difficulty. There's no large difficulty spike that sneaks up on you, nor does it ever feel like any death was completely unavoidable. It's just a hard game. While there is a simple mode on boss fights, an easier mode that normally skips a phase of the boss battle, it should be noted that unless players beat every boss on the regular difficulty, that the final boss will not be able to be fought, nor will the expert mode be unlocked. And that difficulty is where a major caveat has to come into this review. If you think Cuphead looks great and want to buy it just for that reason, but you hate difficult games, then save your money. If you don't want to be challenged or are unwilling to spend a lot of time on a single boss fight to figure out how to beat it, then Cuphead is simply not the game for you. Watch streams and videos of it instead. If you like difficult games, like those from the 80s and 90s, and you want to put Cuphead's bosses onto your own personal checklist of bosses you need to defeat, however, then Cuphead is a very enthusiastic buy recommendation from me. A fun, charming, and not very expensive game awaits those up for the challenge. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Either way, I'm good. Also, if you enjoyed the video and wish to help support in making more, consider visiting my Patreon page located in the description below. And again, thank you very much.